He was turning to ash. A deadly poison was eating away at the veins that were supposed to keep him alive forever. He lay on a cold hospital bed, struggling to breathe. In a weak voice he said, "Whoever marries you will be a very lucky woman." Evelyn did not wait even 1 second. She slid a silver ring onto his freezing finger and answered, "I accept your proposal." Then the real nightmare started. Heavy rain hit the strong glass windows of Columbia Memorial Hospital in Astoria, Oregon. It sounded like someone was throwing handfuls of small stones against the glass. The time was 3:14 in the morning on a Tuesday. It was the middle of the night shift when almost no one was around. Suddenly, the big emergency room doors slammed open with a loud crash. Evelyn Mercer was 28 years old. She was a senior doctor who worked very hard. Dark circles under her eyes showed how tired she was. She looked up from the paper she was writing. A paramedic named John Davies ran in. His clothes were wet from the rain. He shouted over the noise, "John Doe, we found him in the alley behind 14th Street. He kept talking fast. "No ID. His body temperature is only 68 degrees. His heart rate shows 10 beats per minute on the monitor, but that must be a mistake. No one can live with a heart that slow." Evelyn hurried over. Her doctor training took over. She helped move the man onto the special bed in the trauma room. When her hand touched his bare arm, she pulled back in surprise. It was not just cold. It felt like touching a hard marble statue that had been left outside in a freezing winter storm. The man looked striking. He had a sharp jaw, black hair stuck to his pale forehead, and veins under his almost clear skin that glowed with a faint dark light. Put a warming blanket on him. Start a central line. Push warmed fluids into his veins. She felt a tight knot of worry in her stomach. Something was wrong. "Dr. Holden, get the crash cart ready," she called. Dr. Eris Holden was a younger doctor who often got nervous. He tried to put a needle into a vein, but could not. "His tissue is too thick, Dr. Mercer. The needle will not go in right. And look at his blood." When Evelyn finally got a small sample of blood, she stopped completely. The liquid in the tube was not bright red like normal blood full of oxygen. It was not dark red like blood coming back to the heart. It was almost black. It was thick and sticky. It split right away into strange, shiny layers. She left Holden to keep trying to warm the patient. Evelyn took the blood sample to the small, dimly lit blood lab on the same floor. She put 1 drop under the microscope and turned on the light. What she saw did not match anything she had learned in medical school. The tiny cells were trying to fix themselves very fast. At the same time, a strange, crystal-like thing inside the blood was cutting them apart like a tiny spinning saw. Out of pure curiosity, she waved a UV sterilizing light over the sample. The blood hissed loudly and sent up a little curl of smoke. Evelyn stepped back. Her heart pounded hard against her ribs. She was a woman of science. She paid her house bills and worried about her car needing repairs. Monsters belonged in cheap storybooks. Yet the proof was right there under her microscope. When she went back to Trauma Bay 4, Holden was gone. He had been called to help with a big car crash on the highway. The room was very quiet. Only the slow, painful beep of the heart monitor made any sound. The man's eyes were open. They were a bright, shining amber color, like polished stone. "The warming blankets hurt too much," he said. His voice was low and rough. It seemed to vibrate in Evelyn's chest. "Please turn them off." Evelyn waited a moment, then reached over and switched off the machine. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice stayed steady. "Or rather, what are you?" A tired, bitter smile touched his pale lips. "My name is Dominic Adler. I am something very old, and I am dying." For the next 2 hours the busy emergency room stayed away from room 4. Evelyn felt pulled toward Dominic. He spoke with a quiet kind of sadness. He told her he had been injected with a man-made liquid made of heavy metal mixed with silver and a radioactive tracer. It was a planned murder. The poison was destroying the way his body healed itself. His immortal body was attacking itself and turning his insides to ash. "Why did you come to a human hospital?" Evelyn asked. She changed his IV bag, putting in special fluids she hoped would slow the heavy metal poison. "I did not mean to," Dominic whispered. He coughed and a small piece of black ash landed on his lip. "I was trying to reach the docks. I made a mistake. Now I will die in these clean white sheets, while the lights above me hum." Even though the situation was strange and scary, Evelyn felt deep kindness for him. Under the frightening outside of a powerful hunter was a man in terrible pain. He was facing the end of a very long life, and he was completely alone. She stayed beside him. She gave him quiet time that was hard to find in a busy hospital. She talked to him so he would not feel lost. She told him about the hard years of medical training, the huge student loans she still owed, and her quiet life in the town of Astoria. In return, Dominic talked about the 1890s. He spoke of jazz clubs in the 1920s and the heavy sadness of living longer than every person he had ever loved. When the clock reached 5 a.m., a strong shaking ran through Dominic's body. His skin started to crack. Thin gray lines appeared along his neck. The pain was so strong it almost blinded him. Evelyn took his hand and held it tightly, ignoring how cold it felt. He looked up at her. His amber eyes were growing dim, but they were full of sudden soft care. She had not screamed. She had not called the police. She had only tried to help him heal. "You are extraordinary, Dr. Mercer," Dominic said. His breath caught. He forced a small, admiring smile through the pain. "Whoever marries you will be a very lucky woman." Evelyn looked at the monitors, then down at his hand that was falling apart. A wild, desperate, and careful idea formed in her mind. "I accept your proposal," she said in a flat voice. Dominic's eyes opened wide. The surprise pushed the pain away for a moment. "What?" Evelyn reached into her coat pocket. She pulled out a plain silver ring she wore on a chain around her neck. It had belonged to her mother who had passed away. She took it off the chain and pushed it onto Dominic's freezing little finger, the only one it would fit. "I said I accept," Evelyn repeated. She looked straight into his eyes. "Right now." Dominic stared at the silver ring. The metal burned his skin a little, but it was nothing compared to the poison tearing through his veins. "Evelyn, this is madness. I am turning to dust. I will be gone before the sun rises." "Exactly," Evelyn said. Her voice changed from kind doctor to sharp planner. She turned to the computer in the corner of the room. Her fingers moved quickly over the keys. "You told me earlier about the Adler Trust. You said the man who poisoned you, Victor Hastings, will get your whole estate, your buildings, and your old records, because he is your only remaining blood-linked relative. Is that true?" Dominic nodded weakly and coughed up more ash. "It is vampire law. The oldest living family line takes the property of the one who dies. Hastings poisoned me so he could take my empire in Seattle. He wants my political power. My death would make him safe from everyone. Unless—" Evelyn printed papers from the hospital's legal files. "Unless you have a legal human wife. Under United States law, a spouse comes before a distant relative, even a blood-linked one, especially if a will is signed quickly. If your money is held in human companies, as you said, then human law decides who inherits." Dominic gave a weak, empty laugh. "You want my fortune?" "I want Hastings' pharmaceutical front destroyed," Evelyn said. Her voice dropped to a fierce whisper. She walked to his bed and put the papers on the table. "Victor Hastings owns Apex Biotech. They raised the price of the leukemia medicine my sister needed last year. They made it so expensive she could not buy it. She died 3 months ago. If marrying a dying vampire gives me the keys to Hastings' empire and the power to tear down everything he built, then yes, Dominic, I am going to be a very lucky woman." Dominic looked at the strong, beautiful human in front of him. She was not only a kind helper, she was a force of justice. The strange twist was almost poetic. Hastings had tried to take everything. By forcing Dominic into this random hospital, he had given his empire to the sister of one of his victims. "You understand the danger," Dominic warned. His vision was growing blurry as the gray cracks moved up his jaw. Hastings will hunt you. He will know what you have done. Let him try to fight the tax office, the security office, and a team of inheritance lawyers, Evelyn said in a hard voice. I will bury his company under so much legal paper he will wish he was dead. Now sign the marriage license. In Oregon, a hospital chaplain can marry people who are near death without any waiting time. Evelyn called for Chaplain Thomas Miller. A sleepy, kind-looking man in his 60s came to room 4B 10 minutes later. He looked at Dominic's terrible color and the frantic beeping of the monitor. He thought the young man was dying from a normal terminal illness. We need to do this quickly, Thomas, Evelyn said, holding Dominic's icy hand. The wedding was strange. The bright hospital lights hummed above them. They threw cold shadows across the trauma room. There were no flowers and no music. There was only the smell of cleaning chemicals and the frightening sound of Dominic's hard breathing. Do you, Evelyn, take this man? The chaplain asked. I do, she said firmly, looking at Dominic. And do you, Dominic, take this woman? I do, Dominic whispered, coughing hard. He barely managed to write his name on the emergency marriage and will papers. Those papers tied his huge, centuries-old empire to Evelyn Mercer. Chaplain Miller said they were husband and wife. He gave a kind nod and hurried out to send the papers to the county office by computer before the patient died. The moment the door closed, the feeling in the room changed. A deep silence fell over the trauma bay. Evelyn stood by the bed. The truth of what she had just done hit her hard. She was about to become a widow to a creature from old stories. It is done, Dominic whispered. His body was falling apart faster now. His skin flaked into fine dark dust that shone in the harsh light. Take the ring. Go to Elias Thorne in Seattle. He is a human lawyer. He knows everything. He will protect you. Evelyn watched him fade. A sudden, unexpected sadness touched her heart. He had been a monster, maybe, but tonight he was just a victim of a war she was now part of. Thank you, Dominic, she whispered softly. Before Dominic could speak his last words, the double doors of the emergency room down the hall were blown off their hinges with a huge crash. Screams of fear and the sound of breaking glass filled the hallway. Evelyn looked through the small glass window of room 4B. A man in a fine dark gray suit walked down the hall. His eyes glowed bright, unnatural red. The security guards who tried to stop him were thrown aside, like toys. Victor Hastings had not waited for Dominic to die. He had come to finish the job himself. Dominic's hand grabbed Evelyn's wrist with surprising last strength. Run, he gasped. His amber eyes were wide with fear. Evelyn, run! But Evelyn did not run. She calmly reached under her hospital clothes. Her fingers closed around the cold, heavy handle of a special silver-plated gun she had carried every day since her sister died. She looked down at her dying husband. Till death do us part, Dominic, she said in a cold voice, and pulled the hammer back. And I do not plan on dying tonight. The loud crack of the gunshot rang through the clean halls of Columbia Memorial Hospital. It was sharp and final. Victor Hastings had barely noticed the human doctor standing over his prey when a .45 caliber hollow-point bullet, made by hand from pure silver, tore through his fine suit and buried itself in his left shoulder. Victor stumbled back. A hiss of pure animal pain left his lips. The wound smoked. The silver reacted at once with the strange chemistry of his immortal blood. He looked up. His glowing red eyes were wide with real shock. Humans were supposed to run. They were supposed to hide. They were certainly not supposed to shoot back. Get out of my emergency room, Evelyn ordered. Her voice held no panic. Her hands, trained to do careful work under great pressure, did not shake as she aimed the gun at his chest. You insolent little insect, Victor snarled. His fangs grew longer. The veins around his eyes turned into jagged black lines like lightning. He jumped forward, moving so fast the air seemed to blur. But Evelyn was a trauma doctor. She lived in the tiny moments between life and death. Before Victor reached the doorway of room 4B, she fired twice more. Then she quickly turned and slammed her hand on the emergency oxygen release valve on the wall. A strong stream of pure oxygen filled the space right away. She grabbed the UV sterilizing wand she had brought from the lab, lit a surgical burning tool, and threw it into the oxygen-filled hallway. The sudden flash fire exploded outward. It blew Victor back through the double doors and covered him in a local fire of bright blue flame. The sprinkler system screamed to life and poured cold water down on the ruined hallway. "Dominic, we are leaving," Evelyn said, coughing through the smoke as she put the gun away. She turned to the bed. Dominic was almost unconscious. His skin was completely gray. The heavy metal poison was near his heart. "I cannot walk," Dominic whispered. The ashes of his own body dusted the white sheets. "Leave me, Evelyn. You have the ring. You have the power. I am a doctor, and you are my patient, and as of 5 minutes ago, you are my husband. I do not abandon either," Evelyn said in a flat voice. She grabbed a portable heart shock machine, a strong transport bed, and 3 bags of the special IV fluids. With a burst of strength she did not know she had, she lifted Dominic's freezing, stiff body onto the bed. She moved through the wet, chaotic hospital, staying away from the main halls. She took the freight elevator down to the ambulance area. The trouble upstairs had pulled all the security people away. An advanced life support ambulance sat running near the loading dock. The keys hung in the ignition. Evelyn loaded Dominic into the back, locked the stretcher in place, and shut the door. She jumped into the driver's seat, put the heavy vehicle into gear, and raced out into the stormy Oregon night. The tires screamed on the wet road. As they sped down Interstate 5 toward Seattle, the rain washing the blood from the windshield, Evelyn called into the back, "Dominic, stay with me. Tell me about Apex Biotech. If we are going to tear down Victor's empire, I need to know where the secrets are buried." From the back, Dominic's voice was a weak echo over the siren. "Apex is a farming operation. The drugs they make for leukemia and for diseases where the body attacks itself do not cure people. They change the blood. They make human blood richer and stronger for feeding. They raise the prices to make people desperate. Then they push patients into test trials where those patients disappear. Your sister, she was a candidate." Evelyn's hands tightened on the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. The deep sadness that had filled her for the past 3 months changed at once into cold, hard anger. It had not been a broken medical system that killed Abigail. It had been a planned harvest. "We need to reach Elias Crawford in Seattle," Dominic coughed, fighting to keep his amber eyes open. "He holds the Master Book of Records. He is human, but his family has served the Adler Trust for 100 years. He can finish the marriage papers. He can lock Victor out of the accounts." "Hold on, Dominic," Evelyn whispered, pushing the gas pedal to the floor. "I am going to fix this. All of it." During the 2-hour drive, Evelyn often reached into the back to push more of the special fluids into Dominic's IV. She noticed something almost magical. While the heavy metals were destroying his vampire cells, the large amount of man-made human fluids she was giving him created a temporary shield. The decay had not stopped, but it had slowed. By the time the Seattle skyline appeared through the breaking storm clouds, they drove into the underground parking garage of a plain, strong-looking high building in the Money District. Elias Crawford, a neat man in his 50s with sharp gray eyes, was waiting. He had followed the ambulance's location the moment Evelyn used Dominic's emergency phone to call ahead. When he saw Evelyn pushing a decaying, ash-covered Dominic out of the ambulance, his calm face cracked. "Good God, Mr. Adler," Elias breathed, rushing forward to help push the bed toward a private strong elevator. "Elias," Evelyn cut in, her voice sharp like a whip. "Did you receive the digital papers from the hospital chaplain?" Elias looked at the blood-stained, tired doctor. He noticed the silver ring on her finger. "I did, Mrs. Adler. The marriage is legal, the will is active. But Victor Hastings has already frozen the second set of accounts. He has sent hired fighters. We have less than an hour before he finds your vehicle here." "Then we do not have an hour to hide," Evelyn said. She wheeled Dominic into the high-tech medical room hidden inside Elias's top-floor apartment. She looked down at her dying husband, then back at the lawyer. "We start the takeover right now, and I am going to prepare a very special medicine for Mr. Hastings." The penthouse was a tall fortress of strong steel and thick bulletproof glass, high above the waking city of Seattle. Inside the hidden medical room, the clean smell of antiseptic covered the metallic smell of immortal blood. Evelyn Mercer moved with machine-like, frightening care. The storm had ended outside. The first pale, bruised light of dawn was starting to appear over the Cascade Mountains. She took a fresh tube of blood from Dominic's still arm. The liquid was no longer blood. It was a thick, shining nightmare of dying cells and wild silver. The liquid poison had almost completely eaten his cell structure. He was minutes, maybe only seconds, away from turning into pure ash on the steel table. But Evelyn was a woman of science, and science is about controlling reactions. She carried the tube to Elias's modern spinning machine and locked it in place. She did not want to remove the poison to save Dominic. It was too deep in his tissues for simple cleaning. Instead, she needed to separate the reaction. If Victor Hastings had the same kind of immortal body, the heavy metal poison would spread easily if it was put straight and strongly into his blood. Evelyn called, "Elias." Her voice cut through the hum of the medical machines. Her eyes stayed fixed on the digital screen of the spinning machine. "Move all of Apex Biotech's ready money to the Adler Trust shell companies. Do it right now. Leave him with absolutely nothing." In the next room, Elias Crawford's fingers flew across a huge glowing computer screen. "I am starting the emergency inheritance rules now," the lawyer shouted back. His voice was tight with excitement. "Because you are the legal human wife, state law starts an automatic stop against a Camelame. Victor's blood claims. The banks in other countries are locking him out. His security codes for the medicine factories are being taken away and given to you as we speak." "He's going to feel that," Evelyn muttered. The spinning machine beeped. She took out the tube, now separated into layers. Using a tiny measuring tool, she drew up the super-strong pure silver poison and put it into a large medical needle. She mixed it with a heavy amount of synthetic heparin, a strong blood thinner. "He already has," a smooth, poisonous voice said through the large apartment. The sound of shattering bulletproof glass was deafening. Evelyn spun around. The strong balcony doors fell inward. Victor Hastings stepped into the room. He looked like a mix of expensive wealth and terrible violence. The left side of his face was heavily blistered and burned black from the hospital fire. His fine suit hung in burned pieces. But the horrible burns were already healing with unnatural, sickening speed. Behind him, 3 heavily armed human fighters entered the penthouse. They pointed quiet assault rifles straight at Elias's chest. "You have been a deep and annoying problem, Dr. Mercer," Victor sneered. He stepped gracefully over the broken glass, a clever little trick with the hospital chaplain and the marriage license. But human laws only matter to people who plan to leave survivors. "Kill the lawyer, bring the sad doctor to me." Before the fighters could even move to pull their triggers, Evelyn slammed her hand onto a red emergency button on the medical room wall. Thick, heavy steel blast doors dropped from the ceiling with a hiss of air. They slammed shut and locked Elias safely outside with the armed men. Evelyn had purposely trapped Victor inside the strong, soundproof medical room with her and the dying Dominic. Victor laughed a cruel sound that shook in Evelyn's chest. "You locked yourself in the cage with the wolf, Doctor. Did you really think freezing my bank accounts would save your life? I have walked this earth for 400 years. Money is only a tool. Blood is the only true power." "I agree," Evelyn said softly. She stood perfectly still beside Dominic's bed. Her hands rested calmly at her sides. Victor jumped. He moved faster than a human eye could follow. In the blink of an eye, he pinned Evelyn against the cold steel wall. His hand closed around her throat and lifted her inches off the tiled floor. The crushing force of his grip threatened to break her neck. "Your sister had wonderfully sweet blood," Victor whispered. His long fangs brushed the sensitive skin under Evelyn's ear. "I drained Abigail myself when she could not pay for the treatments my company kept from her. Now I will drain you, and I will take back what is mine." Victor sank his fangs deep into the place where Evelyn's neck met her shoulder. He expected the hot, exciting rush of human fear and rich iron. Instead, the moment his fangs broke her skin and pulled her blood into his mouth, Victor let out a scream of pure pain. He tore himself away from her violently, stumbled backward, and fell to his knees. He grabbed his throat. His glowing red eyes were wide with total, blinding agony. Jagged, pitch-black veins spread across his face at once, climbing from his collar up to his temples. Evelyn slid down the wall, gasping for air. She pressed hard on the bleeding, burning bite on her neck. She looked down at Victor. He was thrashing wildly on the clean white tiles. His immortal body was already starting to flake into dry gray ash. "What did you do to me?" Victor choked out, coughing up thick clouds of black dust. "Before you broke the glass," Evelyn gasped, still pressing on her neck. "I injected myself with that huge dose of synthetic heparin mixed with the pure silver poison I took from my husband. It is deadly to your kind. I turned my own blood system into a high-pressure poisoned well. And you just drank from it." Victor Hastings, the builder of a medicine empire built completely on human pain and use, reached a shaking, decaying hand toward her. But the poison worked 10 times faster in his aggressive, hunting body. Within seconds, his body hardened completely. With a sickening crunch, he crumbled into a pile of lifeless, dark gray ash. Evelyn did not waste 1 second celebrating. She grabbed a second large needle from the surgical tray. It held a dangerous, untested mix of human stem cells, heavy metal binders, and pure epinephrine. She drove it straight through Dominic's ribs, right into his failing heart. "Come back," she whispered fiercely, pressing her bloody hands against his cold chest. "I did not do all of this to be a widow on my first day. Come back to me." For a terrifying, painful minute, the monitors stayed flat. There was nothing but the sound of the storm outside. Then Dominic's chest rose. His amber eyes snapped open, glowing with new strong light. The gray cracks on his skin stopped. Slowly, almost like a miracle, the fresh human stem cells forced his immortal healing to start again. They pushed the last of the poison out of his veins. Dominic slowly turned his head. He looked at the pile of ash on the floor. She was bleeding, bruised, completely exhausted, and fiercely beautiful in the morning light. "You killed him," Dominic breathed. Real wonder and respect filled his rough voice. "No," Evelyn corrected. A tired but proud smile touched her lips as she showed him the silver ring still shining on her finger. "We liquidated his assets. Now, husband, we have a pharmaceutical company to tear down and a whole lot of patients to cure." Evelyn Mercer had thought her life ended when she lost her sister. But stepping into the dark, hidden world of vampires gave her the final power to fight back. Sometimes the most dangerous hunter in the room is not the monster. It is a doctor who has nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. This story is make-believe. Real hospitals, real doctors, and real medicine work very differently. In the real world, blood tests, IV fluids, and emergency care follow strict science rules that save lives every day. Poisoning someone or using silver or ultraviolet light the way the story shows is pure fiction and would never work that way. Real pharmaceutical companies are watched by laws and agencies that try to keep medicine safe and fair. When prices rise too high, people can speak up through legal channels, patient groups, and government rules instead of violence. The story uses drama to show how far love, loss, and anger can push a person, But the healthiest power comes from knowledge, kindness, and working within the systems that protect everyone. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe so you don't miss my next video.